A retreat in general, in meditation specifically, is a little inconvenient. And the reason I use the word inconvenient is that in general, our life patterns are towards convenience, towards ease, towards pleasure, towards ease of purpose and intention, facilitation of access and availability, and so a meditation in general, or a retreat specifically, throws us off of that. It's inconvenience. How is it inconvenience? Because you have to sort of step out of much of the distractibility that our life has been directed towards. You have to be willing to feel a little awkward. When you sit down and don't do anything, that is not in accordance with how the mind wishes you to be. It wishes you to be active and productive and useful, wishes you to have a checklist of things that you can do and in the course of a day, and this is what your day has been about, and this is the sense of worth and purpose your day has been, all the checks that you can count at the end of that particular period. But when you sit down in meditation or you spend a week on a silent retreat, there's not too much you can check off. You're pretty much having a useless week. And so that doesn't really give us much grip to the road in terms of what we're going to say to our friends when we leave here. And it doesn't give us much personal satisfaction to just sit quietly. So we have to understand the reason for this inconvenience and the benefit of it. Now, we're not so interested in you doing your activities. We're less interested in how much you get done or accomplished on this retreat outside of your yogi job, but we're very interested in what motivates you to do what you're doing. In order for you to know what it is that motivates you, you have to be willing to scratch the surface, be just underneath the activity. If you get caught up in just the activity and just the next thing you have to do and just the next goal you have to accomplish, you find that there's a layer of coverage, a layer of obscuration that doesn't allow us to know what it is or why it is that we're doing those things. Now, it's the why that we're doing those things. It's what motivates us. This is really where we can pierce the surface of convenience. We don't necessarily want to know why. We just want to follow the next dictate, the next conditioning, the next thing that our mind tells us we need to do, the next way that we can pursue our life's patterns and purposes. As we start looking at the why, the motivation, the things that are below the surface that are urging us on, you can begin to get a sense that we are falling into patterns that are really self-destructive in many ways, that aren't necessarily for our health or betterment, not necessarily for a greater sense of wisdom or compassion to the world, often individually determined, often selfishly derived, and quite likely pleasure-seeking. And we work very much on a pleasure-pain principle until we actually look and discern that principle for what it is and see what it is that seems to be pushing us along. To do that, we have to take you out of the normal stream of events. We have to put you in an environment that's inconvenient. We have to put you where you can't just move to the next distraction, to the next point of entertainment, where the knobs of your telephone, television, et cetera, aren't immediately available to you. And that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good not to have the conveniences there for us. It doesn't feel good to be robbed of the immediate pleasure gratification that we have counted on. And so this culture, this environment is very deliberately awkward in that sense. It's rather drab. There aren't entertainment possibilities here. Food will be sustainable and nourishing, but it won't be stylish or lavish. It'll be just basic. It'll be good, but just basic. And we will be asking you not to speak to one another. And so the normal ways that we distract ourselves from ourselves through speech will be removed as well. So here we are, without entertainment, being quiet, sitting a lot, where we can start looking at what it is that has been motivating the very distractions that we have sought. And to do that, as I mentioned, you're going to feel awkward. It's going to feel as if something is being imposed upon you that is out of context and not necessarily, you won't necessarily delight at the quiet as the days pass. It may cause some of you, especially if you're new to meditation, a little discomfort. Now, that discomfort isn't because of the circumstances, it's because of the needy addictions that we have towards making our life always comfortable, always prone to the next pleasurable thing. And when we take away those pleasurable things, we're thrown back on what's left, what's underneath the surface, what has motivated that. And we begin to see up close and personal what has been driving us. And that's really the point of meditation and the meditation retreat, is that it begins to show us the mechanisms by which we operate. And when we can begin to look in that way, with that kind of refinement, with that kind of discernment, wondrous opportunities come for us to be able to step out of that, to step into a whole different way of life that really does have us in its, for us, for our benefits. That really does see that the perceptions that we have formed are as distorted as the activities that we have mindlessly and unconsciously been behaving through and doing. That this perception, when we can draw attention to the distortions, when we can find out what has been motivating us, when we can come back to a new alignment, the field of distortions that these activities have created come into alignment. We begin to see clearly. We begin to see in an undistorted way. And we see very differently than we see now. Where each of us feel like we're the center of the universe. Where each of us feel like everything always happens to me as the center of the circle. And it begins to feel much different than that. Much more complete and whole in ourselves. And so that's the point of the retreat. And of course, silence is the great teacher of the retreat. Silence, it is the willingness to be silent with ourselves that begins to expose all of the conditioned, motivated reasons why we do what we do. When we just act from what we do, we don't see why we're doing what we do. But when we're quiet to doing what we're doing, we begin to see the very expressions, the very experiences that have carved our life to be in the shape that they are now, to form the character that we have. And to this end, this is the point and purpose of a retreat.